Hola Yeten, bienvenidos a la última semana de estos vídeos. So today we're going to be looking at, as your title says, los pros y los contras de la ciudad. So like the pros and the cons of a city and of living in a city. And before we get into that, the starter is on the vocab that we've been using in weeks 3 and 4. So you've got the English sentence here: if the weather is good, I will go shopping, and you've just got to fill in what the Spanish should be there. Obviously the words that you've already got are just to help you with the rest of the sentence. So just use the first letter. So for example, with this one, the word that's missing is si, means if. Buen is good. So first of all, try and fill in the gaps without using your fact book. But then if you do need support, you can look in it. So pause the video. Actually, one other thing to point out is that a lot of these are in the future tense. So this is it will be cold. So this H here and this H aren't going to be the same. So look at the tenses. And then this is will play. So this isn't going to be like juego. It's going to be I will play. So pause the video. Have a go at that. Okay, and those are your answers. So mark your work, pause the video. Just to point out, again, these are all in the future tense, so they all end in an E, because if it's I, they're going to end in an E with an accent, and you're going to use the whole infinitive, so ir plus the ending. Again, the whole infinitive up to descansar plus the E, so I will relax. The whole infinitive plus the ending. This one is irregular. This needs an accent. So that's one to remember, I will do. And again, the whole infinitive plus the ending. So this is your vocab that we're going to be using today, and that's in your fact book. One thing to say before we actually start the lesson, there is a worksheet to help you, or that accompanies this online lesson. So if you're able to print that out, then it will make your life a little easier. If not, then you don't necessarily need it, but it will make your life easier if you have access to a printer. So this is the vocab we're going to use. A lot of it is new, like very new. So we're going to talk through it, and I'm going to hopefully give you some ways of trying to remember the vocab or link it to where we've seen this kind of vocab before. So it's easy to get about. Es fácil is easy, literally. So es fácil desplazarse. So desplazarse sounds a bit like to displace. Like if you displace something, or if you displace yourself, you move somewhere, or you move around. So that is one way of remembering desplazarse to mean to get about. This word diversiones means fun things, and it's from the adjective divertido. So that's one way of remembering it, linking it to a Spanish word that you already know. And I, obviously, is a very transferable piece of vocab, meaning there is or there are. So that's one you just have to know. Las tiendas we had in week 1, so things in town, tiendas or shops. Están cercas. Cercas we've seen before, so we saw it in the topic where we spoke about like hotels on holiday. And we said things like el hotel está cerca de la playa, so the hotel is close to the beach. So cerca, hopefully you recognize. Oportunidades is a nice and easy one to remember. Again, I is repeated, because that is just such a transferable bit of vocab. De trabajo, so they don't say job opportunities, they say opportunities of work or of job. Bulliciosa is a nice, much more interesting adjective than something just like grande or divertido. So it means like bustling, and it's actually, I think it's quite easy to remember because it looks a lot like bustling. Áreas de ocio, that's just a really hard word to remember because it looks nothing like leisure, but that's what it is. Red de transporte, again, I is repeated so many times. Red literally means network, and we had that in our technology, like units, because it can mean internet as well, but it literally means network, so the internet is obviously a network. So red de transporte is a network of transport. So these are all positive things. So lo mejor de vivir en la ciudad es que, so this is like the best thing. Remember, lo plus a adjective means like the something thing. So lo mejor is the best thing. Then lo plus another adjective, which is peor, which means worst thing. So lo peor es que, and these are all negative things. El centro es ruidoso, se lleva una vida frenética. Frenética is a nice cognate. Desempleo is a nice one to remember, because empleo means employment. So desempleo is unemployment. Tiene prisa. This one is that's hard to remember, to be honest. To be in a rush. Prisa. I don't know how can't think of a way to link that to an English word. But anyway, so this is the vocab we're gonna use today. So this first activity is thinking about that vocab. So I'm going to read out some sentences. They go in order, and I just want you to listen out for and write down the part which means there is quite a lot of unemployment. So the sentence is going to include other details. So for example, the first sentence is going to be, there is a lot of unemployment, which is bad for the economy. So you ignore the bits that you don't need and just write out the bits that you do need. So just write out the Spanish for these words or phrases. So I'm only going to read them once each, so you can pause the video and rewind. So number one, and they do go in order. Number one is, hay bastante desempleo que es malo para la economía. Number two is, hay tantos atascos que es malo para el medio ambiente. Number three, hay zonas peatonales y edificios antiguos. Number four, hay un gran sentido de comunidad. Number five, no me gusta porque la ciudad es bulliciosa. Number six, las áreas de ocio son muy buenas. Number seven, hay una red de transporte público muy bien organizado. And number eight, la gente siempre tiene prisa y la vida es muy frenética. So those were the 8 sentences. If you need to rewind and listen to it again, then do that now. And here are the actual full sentences. So the bits underlined and in bold are the bits that you should have written down. So if you pause the video now and just have a think about what these all mean, you don't need to write anything down necessarily, but just think about how you translate these into English. So this first one is, there is quite a lot of unemployment, which is bad for the economy. There are so many traffic jams, which is bad for the environment. Medio ambiente is the word for environment. Hay zonas peatonales y edificios antiguos, so that means that's pretty easy. Again, I used both times, there is. This is a nice easy one to remember, sentido, like sense of comunidad, community. We had, when we looked at teachers and school, we had things like me gusta el profesor porque tiene buen sentido de humor. So sentido de is like sense of, and it can also be used for like sense of humor, like sentido de humor. So that's a nice little phrase to know. No me gusta porque. Simple, I don't like it because. Son muy buenas, so the leisure areas are very good. There is a, and then because the adjective is all here, we have to translate this bit first. So there is a very well organized That should be an A. There's a very well organised public transport network. So with this sentence, you have to switch around the word order quite a lot because of where the adjectives come in Spanish. And then this bit is people, or the people, always are in a rush. In Spanish, they say have a rush. So tiene prisa. In Spanish, the people are always in a rush. And life, vida, is very frenetic. So the bit of grammar we're going to look at today is the conditional tense. So in English, you can recognise the conditional tense because you always have to say the word would. So, for example, I would change, I would introduce, it would be. Those are all in the conditional tense because you're saying would. I guess there's a condition to it. So the first thing I'd like you to do is just have a go at finding these words in the Spanish. So in the Spanish, these are just going to be one word because we know in Spanish that they don't use pronouns, and everything is dependent on how the verb ends. So on the verb ending. So these are just all one word. So I would change is going to be just one word. So introduce is a nice, easy one to find because the infinitive looks very similar. It would be, well, the verb to be is ser. And I said that, so a way to remember how to say it will be is because of the song Que Sera, is like it will be, whatever will be will be. So será means it will be. Improve. The word or the verb improve looks a lot like the adjective best. So mejor is best, and then to improve looks very similar to mejor. Say, this is a tricky one, but I'll just say it begins with a D, and hopefully you'll find after you found 1 to 4, you'll see the pattern of the ending, and change when it begins with a C. So maybe find 2, 3, 4 first, and then you can find 1 and 5. So pause the video, find those, and then also think about what tense it's similar to, and think about how you form the conditional tense. What do you do with the infinitive ending, and what do you add on? So pause the video now and have a go at that. So I would change is cambiaría. I would introduce is introduciría. It would be is sería. I would improve is mejoraría. And I would say that is diría. So this is an irregular one. So that's one you just have to learn just by itself. But the others, so hopefully you've seen that the ending is an IA, and the tense that it's similar to that we've seen recently is the future tense, because you leave the infinitive as it is. You don't take anything off the infinitive, and you just add on an ending. So like we saw in the starter, we saw that you leave the infinitive as it is and add on an E. For the conditional tense, you leave the infinitive as it is and add on an IA. And with the irregular ones, the ones that are irregular in the future tense are also irregular in the conditional tense. So, haré is I will do. You keep this stem and you just take off the E because that's the future tense ending and add on an IA to make I would do. So haría would be I would do. And just like this is diría, I would say. If you were to take off the IA and add on an E with an accent, that would then become I will say. So that is the conditional tense, and that's the tense or the new tense that you're going to see in the couple of texts that we read in the next activity. So I mentioned at the start that if you can print off the worksheet that goes with this lesson, then do that, because your life will just be so much easier. So if you're able to print that off, you can basically pause the video now and work through these 3 activities. So there's 4 texts in total, and you're just going to say which of the texts mention these things. Then you're going to use all of the vocab in the 4 texts to put together this text. So you don't need to make anything up. Everything is already there for you in the text. You just find it and put it together. And then you're going to translate the Julio text. So that is the blue one here. If you would like some support for the translation, that's on the next slide. So if you think you can do it without support and you think you can work through the worksheet that you printed off, pause the video now. If you want some support, but you've printed off the worksheet, then pause the video now. Here is your support. If you can't print off the texts, that's fine, but you're just going to have to pause each slide as it appears. So this is for the first activity for A, and these are the 4 texts you're using. So pause the video now if you're going to do it like this. Then this is the next activity, so you're just going to translate this into Spanish using the vocab that's already in these 4 texts. And then the final activity is to translate the Julio text. Without support, this is, first of all. If you want some support, that's on the next slide. I would say maybe have a go, first of all, at doing what you can without support. And then, if you need support, it's here. So pause the video now to have a go at that. Okay, so your answers. Who mentions the busyness of the city? That is Valentina, because she mentions that la gente siempre tiene prisa. The people always are in a rush. I suppose you could also say it was Julio, because he mentions that it's bulliciosa. So actually, I suppose that's J as well. The amount of cars is Hugo, because he mentions that no hay tantos atascos como antes. So he says there aren't so many traffic jams. So he doesn't say the word coche, but atasco is a traffic jam, so that's implying he's talking about cars. Their good public transport system, again, is Hugo, because he mentions red de transporte público muy buena. Their relaxed life, A. Vida muy relajada, so vida is life. It looks a lot like, or it comes from the verb vivir, which is to live. So vivir, to live, vida, life. Jobs is Julio, because he mentions empleo. So empleo is employment. So es fácil encontrar empleo is also, it is easy to find employment. So encontrar is the verb to find. And that's a really important verb to know for reading exercises, because that's a verb that comes up a lot in exams. Just because it's a very transferable verb and you can use it in a lot of different circumstances. And it's one that you don't tend to learn really, because you don't necessarily ever need to use the word find, but they like to use it in texts. There's also something to do, J, because he says es imposible aburrirse. So he says it's impossible to be bored. The other people who live in the area, Valentina, because she says conozco a todos mis vecinos. This was a hard one to get, actually. Although she does mention gente, so gente you would know means people, but this means I know all of my neighbours. Vecino is a neighbour, but gente means people, so hopefully you would have seen gente and got that. This is the text translated, so pause the video and look at that. And then the translation for Julio is life here in the city is bustling, but I like it. You have all of the shops close by or like at a short distance, and it is impossible to get bored. Also, it is easy to find employment or work. The only thing, so again, lo plus an adjective means like the something thing. So único here means only. So the only thing that I would change would be the centre. I would introduce more pedestrian zones, and I would renovate some old buildings. And if you did the Ariana translation, this is you lead a very relaxed life in the countryside. Campo does not mean like camp, or it's nothing to do with camping, it's countryside. It is so quiet. There is not much to do, but I would say that you have everything you need or everything necessary to live well. However, the public transport is not reliable, and therefore there are a lot of cars, or there are so many cars. I would improve the public transport system, and it would be free for everyone. So to finish off, just with a bit of writing, I'd like you to write about these three things. So say where you live, why you like it, why you dislike it, and what you would change about your area. So this bit here is where you're going to use the conditional tense, saying things like I would change, it would be, I would invest in, any of the vocab you found or we used previously in the previous activity. With this second bullet point, where you like, dislike it, that's where you're going to use the vocab from the week 5 bit in the fact book. So you can say you like it because it's easy to get around, because the public transport's good, because the shops are close, because there aren't any traffic jams. So use all that vocab that we've seen today. Also in this second bullet point is you can also use, or you can also recycle a lot of the vocab we've seen in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So try and use se puede plus an infinitive, so you can something, and that's why you like it. So me gusta porque se puede visitar la playa. Describe the climate, so la clima es, what is it like, soleado, caluroso, seco, anything. And then in the first week we had adjectives to describe towns like ugly, beautiful, touristy, historic. So you can say things like I like it because, so me flipa mi ciudad porque es histórica. So try and recycle as much of the vocab as you can from the previous weeks, and just expand on these 3 bullet points here. First of all, do that without any support. So pause the video now and have a go at doing that just by using the vocab that's in your head. If you then if you want to add some bits, if you want to just look up some words in the fact book, then do that. And I'm going to change the slide so that this bit where it says useful vocab, there is some actual useful vocab there. So if you want to without support first, pause the video now. And then the support, or the useful vocab, I've just put in some bits here. Now, construir and prohibir, these are both still in the infinitive. So you need to add on the ending to make it I would build, or I would construct, or I would ban. So yeah, there's your support. So pause the video now, have a go at writing a text on those three things. And then finally, just to point in the direction of the learning for this final week, this is the vocab that I showed you at the start. Like I said earlier, try and think about ways where you can link this to English. So desplazarse, for example, it looks like displace, and that's links to getting about. Diversión is like divertido. So yeah, that's your learning for this week.